Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.
We're so thrilled to have back on Grammy Award-winning artist, guitar virtuoso, Steve Vai. Steve, thanks for coming back on the show.
Right on. Good to be here, Eric. Thank you.
You know, it's good to see you so healthy now with the arm and everything all healed up. And obviously, your new album that came out this year, Inviolate, is doing very well.
Yeah, it is. It's a nice surprise, you know, at 62 and being in the business for 42 years and having you know, within my little field of instrumental rock guitar playing, I've got some movement, so it's nice.
I think you've got a lot of movement. I always enjoy your guitar work and obviously your live shows also. How did the collaboration come together with Living Colour on Cult of Personality? I was just listening to that, and what a neat thing for you to be involved with, Steve.
Yeah, that was a nice little gift, so to speak. Well, I've known the guys for decades, you know, and we've played together. We were when I was on tour with Experience Hendrix, they were, you know, the band. And they're just such a great group of guys, great energy to be around, really funny. And when they were doing this Rock in Rio, they invited me to just go down and play 4 or 5 songs with them. And it was great. You know, it was a very easy gig for me because I basically, you know, had this incredible band. And I didn't have to, you know, do much except show up and give it my best. And it was really great fun.
Well, you know, and the work that you did within the song too, it fits in so nicely. But I had to think, it's like, you know, you've been a solo artist for so long now, you know, even with obviously, you know, your past history with, you know, Alcatraz and David Lee Roth and everything else. Now, obviously Frank Zappa, but it's like you made that transition pretty seamlessly from solo Steve Vai in with their band.
Oh, well, you know, it's music. So you play on top of the music. And it was a great opportunity also to kind of like kick back to my Led Zeppelin roots when we played, you know, rock and roll. It was great because when I was a kid, I played that song obviously, and I was never quite satisfied with the way that I played it. So this time I really wanted to learn it properly, like Jimmy Page, and get to be on stage and throw some Jimmy Page, you know, shapes. It was really great fun.
That is such a blast. Well, and I've got to bring up also Teeth of the Hydra. So I was watching this video last night with this incredible instrument, this triple neck guitar that you have, which is, you know, the top neck look like it's fretless. The second neck is fretted. You're playing bass on the bottom. And I got to tell you, Steve, you put me at a crossroads to where I don't know if I should burn my guitars or practice more now. After what, and the video is already over 4 million views.
Yeah.
How did you come about with this? I mean, I know when you were you know, in rehabilitation for your arm healing up, you know, you were doing the one-handed guitar work more. This is 3 necks, and you're tapping the bass down at the bottom and then playing the other 2 necks. How did this come about?
Well, I imagined it, you know. I always wanted, I always loved multi-neck guitars, but I never really felt like I played something that integrated all the necks into like one performance. So I just, this picture came in my head of doing it. So then it took like 5 years to actually develop the instrument and then finally get it. And when I sat behind it, I was like, oh my God, what was I thinking, you know? But, you know, you start slow. I started really slow, and I kept the big picture in my mind. And it's so interesting when you're just like deeply focused on something and you're constantly critiquing it and you're wielding it and you're like, okay, no. And then you look at the finished product and you're like, whoa, you know, it is pretty fascinating. But when I watch it, I kind of feel the way some people feel. How did you do that? And then I just remembered I started really slow and I kept the visual.
Who built the instrument for you? Because what I automatically thought of when I watched it, Steve, was you know, the early 1900s harp guitars. But you know, typically the bass is on the top bout, and then the standard guitar is on the bottom. yours is a reversal of that. Who did you develop this instrument with?
Ibanez. That's the guitar company I've worked with for 35 over 35
Right.
years.
With the gem
And
models and the Pia
yeah, with all the signature models I did with them, the seven string and the gem and
universe.
the universe. And it was the kind of thing where I'm so fortunate because I'm in this situation where I can just imagine this crazy stuff, and Ibanez is just ready. They sharpen their knives, the idea was to create an instrument that had three necks and these harp strings, and it
Hmm.
was a bass neck with the E and the A string fretless, and
I
then a
noticed that.
seven-string neck so I could tune it down, make it very heavy, and then a
Hmm.
12-string neck that's half fretless. And I wanted a whole guitar synthesizer in it, and it's got piezo's and sample and hold and sustainers. So it was kind of like a little fantasy, and then they built it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what I love about it too, and I want to see this thing close up, obviously being a guitar geek, but it looks like a steampunk instrument. I had never seen an instrument exactly like that. It reminds me of some of the ones that you see at the NAMM shows that are maybe really not playable, but they're beautiful works of art. And obviously this one is playable.
Right. Well, I was always fascinated with the steampunk image, This
Mhm.
it's almost got this it's got an edge to it, but it's also there's a sleekness in it.
Right.
So I was actually about 7 years ago. I started with this Hydra guitar, and at first it was, I started an email to Ibanez, and it was just took like 5 minutes to write, and it had all those things I mentioned that I wanted, and then but I didn't know what it was going to look like. So I just waited for some inspiration, and that inspiration came in the form of a Mad Max movie.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, did you
The
ever
one,
see
the last one with the guy with the guitar that's on the
Yeah,
back of the truck, and then
yeah,
he's like bungeed to it.
yeah, and he's got flames throwing out of it and everything. I saw that and I went, okay, I got to make that real. And so then I just did some research and I gathered a bunch of steampunk fashion things and I put them in the same email 2 years later, and then I hit send and that was it.
Wow. Now, obviously, another thought watching you play this instrument and sounding so great. And like I said, it's over 4 million views already. I assume if you take this on tour that you will also have a chiropractor traveling with you. And certainly that has to be an added, not just a guitar tech, but the guitar chiropractor that will keep you
Right.
in shape.
A chiropractor. Well, interestingly enough, the uh, 2 days after I shot that video, I had a second shoulder surgery.
Ah,
And I had to push my American tour, and that's what I'm doing now. I'm going out. I start next week, and we kick off the American tour. But before that, we had a European tour scheduled.
right.
I could play the guitar, but I couldn't play the Hydra. I couldn't even get my
Mhm.
arm over it.
Mm-mm.
So after the tour, I came home, and actually, it's just a few weeks ago that I was able to stand behind it and see how if I was going to be able to negotiate this thing
Certainly.
for the American tour. And I just started, and it started to come back, and I'm working on it, and I think it's going to work great. But all of the weight of the Hydra is on your hips because
Oh.
it's on a hip strap.
Oh, wow. How smart.
Yeah, but I think for at least the first part of the tour, I'm going to have it on a stand because it's
Hmm.
really heavy. And
That
if you
makes sense.
notice in the video, I can't even move. I'm like my feet are planted, because if you move, the Hydra just keeps taking you. You like
Just the
if you
weight
want
is
to,
propelling you forward.
yeah. If you want to step over there, it thinks you want to go to Chicago.
But just the playing on it is amazing. I've got to bring up also, I was watching a new documentary that came out recently, and I learned things about you that I did not know. And obviously, being a fan of you and your music for so many years, and appreciating you on what you accomplished, but they really kind of dug in with the first 30 years of Steve Vai. What did you think about the documentary?
Well, that was done by a gentleman, Alan Berry, and he on his own free will made this. He's a fan and a videologist, and he sent it to me, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe all the detail, all the work,
Wow.
And
Yeah.
the thing I really loved about it was it's quirky.
Hmm.
It kind of reflects my personality. It's got some cartoon stuff in it. But and I sent him some additional photos that were from my private, you know, family collection.
Certainly.
I just helped him with a couple of little facts and some pronunciation of friends' names.
Mhm.
But yeah, he made that, and I'm just so tickled with the way it came out.
I thought it was amazing. Some of the stuff I really enjoyed was seeing the performances with you and Frank
Yeah.
Zappa, and things like that, and also how complimentary Frank was, of your playing. There's an obvious question I have to ask. Are you thinking about, with Hot Chocolate, as a song and as a band with your sister? It seems like a logical progression, to come back to in your career, Steve.
Well, you never know. I've never had a hit single as a solo artist, but Hot Chocolate can do it. I'm telling you.
I think there's a lot of potential there, and that was your greatest collaboration with your sister,
It was.
and also seasonal. Who doesn't enjoy hot chocolate, Steve?
I'm telling you what. I think it's the time of the year for me to unleash that single.
But there was so much fun in there, and I think also even looking at some of your influences, musically, to where the early West Side Story album, helped kind of move you forward to where then after that it was, obviously Yogi Bear, who wouldn't, and then a Frank Zappa album that then not too long after that you're working with Frank Zappa.
I know. Go figure. Well, the thing is when we're young, we get exposed to different kinds of music, and a lot of that has to do with what our parents are listening to,
Hmm.
or what our siblings bring home.
Right.
So my parents had Italian polka music, of course, and like comedy records, and they were fun, And I actually picked up the accordion at like 9 years old, like all good Italian boys from Long Island. And but then my sister came home with Led Zeppelin, and that changed everything. And then I was in a music store, and I didn't know who Frank Zappa was. I saw the album cover, and I said, I want that,
Hmm.
and that's kind of like very diverse.
Very. But I mean, I think that speaks to most of us growing up within that time to where, we'd have our kids' albums and all that. But like you said, then we're influenced by our parents. That was another thing that I took away from the documentaries too, which I think our viewers should really watch this. I thoroughly enjoyed it, Steve. But how much your parents, how supportive they were, your mom and your dad, of your musical direction, and how far they went to help you chase these music dreams, which obviously has been successful.
Yeah, it's always empowering for a child when the parents support the child's interest.
Hmm.
And I was just so interested. Everything was guitar, and when I'm as an adult now, and knowing other parents and knowing myself, the idea that your kid wants to be a guitar player, it's kind of
Right.
like, oh no.
That's like for Nashville. It's like going, I'm going to Nashville to be a songwriter, and it's like, and once again, you don't want to rain on anybody's parade, but you're always like, hey, do you have a plan B, C, and D also? Just
Right, right.
just saying, you
Yeah,
know.
well, with me, I think my parents recognized there was not even remotely another plan. It was like, and I told him, I said, I don't, I'm be very happy as a high school music teacher.
Right.
I'm just a musician. I don't know anything else. I can't do anything else. That's what I love. And they just were completely supportive.
Well, and then other than driving the ice cream truck, which was your only real day job, which, I gotta say the animation in the documentary was very good with you in the ice cream truck,
Yeah.
particularly with the police officers.
Yeah.
The rest of your life has been, either teaching or performing guitar.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was just one of those natural you gravitate to those things that are most compelling.
Hmm.
And if you're confident in what you're doing, you just continue with it. So I've been real fortunate that way.
Well, speaking of your relationship with Ibanez, with the U.S. tour, going on, and with your new album out and everything too, Steve. 35th anniversary of the gym.
Yeah.
Hard to believe, and I don't know if there's double secret stuff, but can you tell us anything special you're doing with Ibanez or anything else coming out? I'm sure that the production model of the Hydra might be in question.
Well, there won't be a production model of the Hydra. Way too costly. But yeah, I've been so lucky to have known what I wanted in a guitar so many years ago, and then to find Ibanez who just built a guitar, the Gem, to the perfect specs. I've never really felt a pull to really play another guitar, because it's just so suited for me. I mean, I play other guitars, but the main guitar is always the Gem or the Pia.
Right.
And it's just nice to have a company like that you can work with through the years, and they're very creative when it comes to anniversary models and this kind of thing. So we've got something planned for the 35th.
Excellent. And that's what I love about the Pia model also. Obviously, the Gem, such an incredible, once again, a playable work of art, with the monkey grip and everything else on it, but with the Pia, the yin and the yang in the body, and the same with the Hydra. I mean, I know you feel the same. I've always considered instruments playable works of art, but they certainly reflect your personality with these guitars.
Yeah, they do. That's unescapable. You put your imagination to something, and your quirky personal choices flow into it. But I'm impressed that you did so much homework on these guitars.
Oh yeah, I can't help myself, being a guitar geek myself, but I want to make sure, for our viewers that they know where to come see you live on concert, on this tour here in the United States, and also for the new videos you've got out, and certainly the incredible album that has gotten a lot of critical acclaim with Inviolate. Steve, where should they go to do everything Steve Vai?
Well, Vai.com. You can get tickets for the shows through there. You can get the Evo premium packages, which I love doing. That's meet and greets. Before the show, I sit for like 45 minutes and I just speak directly.
Wow.
People answering questions, photos, autographs, sound check. You get to come to sound check. You get a stage tour.
Wow.
You could even touch the Hydra, maybe.
Oh my gosh, there! You had me at touch the Hydra. It's like that video. Once again, for our viewers, please, go watch this video. It's just it's great music, but also just watching you work between it is just mastery. And just want to tell you, Steve Vai, thank you so much for coming back on the show, and we can't wait to see you live on tour.
Right on. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate it. You're looking great too.
Thank you.
Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.